Alright, so, bit of an update. Supercharger is actually on now. Like, bolted down and everything. The throttle body adapter is on, and the throttle body is not on because you may have seen in the last video that big old bracket for throttle position sensor, that's for a manual car. The automatics had this smaller TPS, which I think it sounds like is the one they used on the later cars too for everyone. So I'm waiting on a new bracket to come in. The first one accidentally got shipped to my old address because I bought this right before I moved, so he had my old address on file, so he had to send a second one and then try to get the first one back. But so that should be there. And then since this has the old moldy big AFM, the airflow meter, instead of the MAF, pretty much what you end up doing, they give you this plate here that you bolt onto the MAF, or not the MAF, the AFM, where that used to bolt on the old airbox. So your air is going to go into there and then out of there. And I believe this sits like somewhere over here, kind of where it used to, but it's going to have a cone filter on it instead of the normal filter. And then there's like a big tube that goes from that side around. On the newer cars, it actually goes like down and around or something and ends up down there, which would be nicer. I might see if there's some way to sneak the intake tube down and around and come up on this side without going over the top of the engine, but since that's the way it was intended to go, that's probably the way it'll end up going. The fuel rail had a few issues because I think on the newer engines, these like blocks aren't here. So the fuel pressure regulator is actually supposed to go up here, but if you don't have the thing threaded on before you put the fuel rail on, you can't thread it on because this block is in the way. And I didn't want to have to try to cut it off with a grinder with all this stuff installed. So I ended up putting it at the back, and it's not completely tight, so I don't know if with the thread sealer and stuff that's in there, if once that cures, it'll hold it in place, not leak fuel. But if it leaks, then I'm going to have to find, because right now I've got an O-ring in here to kind of span the gap because this thing's not tightened all the way. What I might have to do is take this back off and then get a washer big enough to fit over the fitting and then space it out that way so this can sit on here. Unfortunately though, this is like the only spot it'll fit. It can't be turned any more that way because the diaphragm hits the engine, and if you turn it any more this way, this hose ends up hitting the supercharger base, and then you can't get a hose on it. It's going to be hard enough to get it on there as it is. But yeah, we're waiting on a new throttle body, so that'll go there. Then I'd run that, and pretty much at this point it's down to that, and then all the vacuum lines, and the IAC, that's got a block off plate and some stuff, and it pretty much gets mounted remotely on the firewall somewhere. I pretty much know how to get that done. I just haven't done it yet, and today was a little bit annoying, so I'm about out of like whatever. So we got the alternator back in, and then there's a bracket that goes under the supercharger base with thing coming down to go to the side of the engine block where the old intake support was. So I put that on there, and then I got this belt back on. These are both new belts, obviously. The old ones, actually, this is terrifying. I'm pretty sure this was the original belt. I don't know if it'll focus on it. Doesn't seem like it's gonna do it. Maybe if I put it here. Maybe. Yeah, so you can see how horribly dry rotted and cracked that is. I haven't never seen a belt this bad. I mean, some of those cracks like run all the way through the V to the point where they're almost at the cords or whatever that is inside the belt. So that belt probably wouldn't have lasted all that much longer. So it's a good thing that it's been replaced now. So the other belt, not as bad. Might have been replaced at some point, but doesn't matter. Both belts are brand new. They've both been tensioned. Everything's tightened up there. So pretty much it's throttle body, a bunch of vacuum hoses, the intake hose, fuel lines, and then there's a tensioner that goes here for the supercharger belt, and then put the supercharger belt on. I pretty much had two options. If I would have thought about it at the beginning, I could have done it the easier way, but now it won't fit. But both of these plugs need to be at the back. They're obviously up here. So the two options would have been to lengthen these two wires because they're in the same harness. Or actually, I guess I could split that farther down, but I'm just going to lengthen these 6 wires and send them to the back. But that's another thing I'm not going to do right now. So I am done for today, and that's how far we got. So might get it done the next time I work on it. Probably not though, because it's going to be a bunch of like derpy little annoying things with vacuum and stuff that aren't going to be fun to do, and I'm probably going to get stuck and have to ask questions and stuff again. So that'll be fun.